Kia ora everybody, welcome back to the Creative Curiosity podcast. I'm your host, my name is Haunui. Got a special guest here today. The bro, I reached out to him, I think it was a year ago, and I saw one of his videos and it blew my mind, and I picked up my balls and I reached out to him and just sent him some praise in the hopes that I could maybe one day hang out with him to pick his brain, and here we are. Bro, how are you?
Kia ora. Great, man. Thanks for having me on. This is my first podcast, so pretty stoked.
So everyone listening, this is the bro, James Rua. Just tell us a little bit about yourself, bro, upbringing and where you're from.
Yeah, born and raised in Bethells Beach in Auckland. My dad is Ngāti Whātua and my mum is Ngāi Tahu. Part Cook Island as well from my dad's side. So, yeah, brought up in West Auckland. Go the Westies. And started getting into the creative kind of industry pretty early on, actually. Since about 10 years old, I used to hang out on film sets and stuff like that. So, yeah, and still at it today. So,
man,
haven't done anything different.
Such as an expert. That's what experts do, bro.
Yeah. Well, I should have started, washing dishes or pushing trolleys or something like that.
The usual story. Eh?
Yeah. But no, I've been in the film industry. Yeah, since 10 years old. But So I guess a bit more about myself. The background is, I guess, living at Bethells Beach is kind of always surrounded by films and stuff being shot out there, Hercules and Xena, and lots of movies. So I used to hang out on film sets in my spare time. Every moment I could, I was always on a set, and I was kind of learning and sussing it out and figuring out what I wanted to do. But right from 10 years old, I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be a DOP. I'm gonna start shooting, and I'm gonna jump on that camera, and So ever since then, I worked in the camera department straight after I left school. Even during school, I used to come back from school and jump straight onto the film set, go hang out with Lucy Lawless and Kevin Sorbo, and
look at that, man.
Hanging out at having lunch with those guys, and so I kind of built up a relationship, for a few years. Got to know a few people, and then when I left school at 15, there was a film set. Actually, it was actually Power Rangers, the first season of Power Rangers.
Wow.
They were filming next door, and I was like, you know what? This is what I want to do. I know what I'm going to do. I don't want to be a doctor. I don't want to be a whatever pilot. I want to be a cameraman. So so I remember I hitched into Henderson at the time, and I made a CV, and I actually got it printed and bound with a laminated cover and stuff like that, and that was my CV. And then I hitched all the way back out to Bethells, and I handed it in to a lady who I knew because I'd been hanging out on film sets for a while, and she said, thanks for your CV, I'll let you know. And I just wandered off back home, jumped the fence, and walked over back to my mum's place. And then I got a call an hour later, and she said, "Oh, you know what? Some guy in the camera department has just sprained his ankle. Do you want to come over and run some cables? It'll probably just be for the afternoon." And I was like, "Yeah, that'd be good." So I jumped back over the fence, and got into a vehicle, and started running some cables on Power Rangers, and that was my first day. And they were like, "Oh, do you want to come back tomorrow?" And I was like, "Yeah, sweet." And I did the next day, and they were like, "Well, actually, do you want to do a trial? Because the guy that broke his ankle was on a 2-week trial. So we may as well give you a trial as well, because they were looking for a trainee."
Yeah.
Anyway, long story short, I ended up getting the job off him, and stayed on for the rest of the season.
Cool bugger.
As a camera trainee. I was like, oh man, I feel sorry for this guy. I really wanted it, so I was determined to get it. So, and that was my first job 17 years ago.
Man, so how old were you then?
I was 15.
Look at that, man.
Yeah.
It's a baby.
34 now,
practically.
so I'm just trying to do the math. Yeah. Gosh.
Yeah.
Math's not good. I'm a creative.
I'll stick to doing videos and stuff.
Doing videos and stuff. Yeah. But yeah. So I mean, from there, I jumped onto an American telly feature and started making some connections, and then jumped onto a feature film at the time. I was still under 18, and I was working on this movie called In My Father's Den at the time.
Oh yeah, I heard of that one.
Yeah, and we're filming down in Roxborough in Queenstown, and I remember we're out of Queenstown, and I didn't even know how to write invoice. I was like timesheets and stuff. I was like, whoa. But classic is being under 18. I was like, couldn't get into any of the bars or anything like that. So just being a young fella, but yeah, it was awesome, bro. I was like, I love the camera department, and I just knew that was what I was gonna do. So yeah,
visual storytelling. Yeah,
that's
exactly it.
To be honest, at the time, I probably wasn't so much of a creative. That creative kind of developed over a period of time. Yeah. I was just interested in, being a career technician. I started out as a camera trainee and then moved up to a clap loader, which they used to load all the film for the cameras, and so did lots of TV shows and features loading film, and then at the end I did about the last moment of my kind of, you call it camera assistant career. I was a focus puller, so I used to pull focus, and they call them first AC. So
yeah. First assistant, camera.
First assistant cameraman. Yeah. So I mean, and I always said that I didn't want to stay as a technician forever.
Yeah.
I always knew I wanted to do something different. Something different being I wanted to be more creative.
Yeah.
I decided just to set a date and say, hey, I'm no longer a camera assistant.
Yeah.
From this day, I'm a cinematographer. So
look at that.
Yeah.
So cinematographer, is that just another name for director of photography, or are there differences in those?
Yeah, I guess it's just a English American kind of difference of terms. But I mean, ultimately the same thing. You make motion pictures and make pretty images.
Yeah,
pretty moving images.
I remember seeing what was it when I first learnt about what a DOP was. Might have been like 2 years ago. And I remember learning, and I was like, oh man, that's at the time, and probably at the time right now too, which is the reason I love the video creative space, is pretty pictures that move. And when I learned about that, I was like, oh man, maybe I want to do that one day. And then, because I'm colorblind, bro, I didn't know if you knew that I was colorblind.
No.
So
my son's colorblind.
Who met many colorblind?
Only my son. My
Only
son's colorblind.
Far out.
Yeah.
So that's
wow, that's incredible.
Does that play like a huge part, like colors, or is that a thing you can always just revisit later on in post?
Well, there's a whole team of colorists, and I mean, for me, I'm not a DOP that specifically looks at color. I think there's so many more things that make up an image than color. For me, I'm always about supporting the director and the story, and just telling the story, telling the characters and stuff like that, and composition's important. I feel like my style is not to get too techie and too involved in all of the little details. Because I feel like once you get to shooting a feature, there's so many other people there to support you, and they do their roles, and you've got you've got wardrobe, you've got colorists, you've got grips, you've got lighting, and I think as a DOP, you've really got to just take the director's vision and then be a little bit more of a delegator. You know, you're just there saying this is good. I take it that you're experienced in your area, so I'm going to trust you and just let everyone else have their little piece. So I guess as a whole, as a cinematographer, I don't think it's crucial that you know color. There's so many, and I think color blindness, you'd probably recognize the differences in tones probably a little more.
Yeah,
which is really useful. You know, you would probably your sense of light direction, tones, maybe exaggerate. I'm not sure, but that's.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely more sensitive to that because of my color blindness.
Yeah,
and like when I was younger, it took me ages before I started using color.
Oh.
So I would just stick to like pencil, paper, and it was, I suppose, now like with hindsight, it was because I understood tones, shade, light, and I didn't understand color.
Yeah.
You know, and when I saw people asking for like the blue crayon, I would always give like the purple one.
Yeah.
And then that confused me even more.
Yeah.
I was like, man, this looks like that color. So you saying all those things about delegation, and that was something that I just learned last night too. I didn't just learn it, but that was sort of reiterated. I was talking about, and it was in terms of scaling, which is, I suppose, thinking about creating a film, the scale of that film. This is just outside looking in, because obviously I have no experience, and you can probably shed light on it. But the scale of a film is, you know, other than being dictated by budget, dictated by the scale of your team. And it was talking about delegation and how, like, for you, bro, has it ever been challenging to delegate, or is that always something that has just come easy to you?
To be honest, it's always come easy to me.
Yeah.
I don't know. I guess because I started in the industry so young, I was always having to step up to people who were 2 or 3 times my age.
Yeah.
So I had to step up, you know, maturity wise, and you know, across a lot of aspects, I had to step up. So also as a clapper loader and a camera assistant, you're kind of running the team. You know, you've got a lot of delegating. You've got logistics and stuff like that. So I learned that right from being a camera technician. You know, how are we gonna get our entire camera team up to that mountain and back down for lunch and then go down. You know, so you got helicopters and all sort. You know, so it's all logistics. Yeah. And so working on films and stuff like that, I did learn that. So I was always quite organised. And with the whole loading film and stuff like that, you have to be quite, you know, onto it. You know, you'd make sure you've got enough film, run it in the camera, but not too much film, you know, because otherwise you had to, whatever you got, you had to pay for. You could send a few things back.
Of course.
So to answer your question, do I find delegating hard? No, I don't. I think it's probably one of my strengths is being able to delegate, and I think that comes from experience of being on films with big DOPs. You can kind of see how they've done it and how you can control a set. Yeah, and I think, I mean, if anyone asks me, the biggest tip that I've learned is just how a film set works. Just understanding that. You know, you got to know what everyone does. You got to know their roles. You got to know how they interact with each other, and that ultimately gets you a better product as a cinematographer, because you know what the makeup artists are doing at that time. You know what wardrobe's doing. You know the grip's doing. You know, so I think if you were to understand everyone's departments, it's going to make you a better leader and a better head of department, I guess, because
Yeah.
as a DOP, you are the head of department. You're head of wardrobe, art, lighting, grips, everything, you know,
Yeah.
and you just have to take the director's vision and use all of your departments and your tools at your disposal to make that vision happen and ultimately tell the story. So,
man, that's cool because you confirm. I don't know about you, but I spend a lot of time in my mind, and I like to think about and theorize about how certain things work. And one of those things is how like film sets and different roles work. And I remember a couple of years ago when I decided, or probably said out loud, that I wanted to become a filmmaker one day, was I wanted to be able to do it right, if I can say it that way. But when I did do it, I wanted to be able to understand all the different roles that go into making that happen. And it was pretty much everything you were saying. Like, if you understand every aspect of it, you'll be able to understand how everyone can work together best to make the best final product. And in saying that, bro, like how probably for you as a director, you've got this overarching vision of the final product. Is that something that you like to instill in everybody, or do you not like to probably bombard people with too much information or having too much on their mind and just focusing on just their singular job?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is important if the entire. I mean, I need to understand what you're saying. Sorry, like it is good for people to know the entire goal and you know and get it out of your head what you want to achieve.
Yeah.
I mean, as creators, I mean, I know I struggle with communication and I've got the story in my head and I clearly know what's going on, but for me to communicate that to a team, that's the difficult bit that I have.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm good at delegating in some ways, but that's probably something that I do struggle with is communicating everything that's going on in my brain creatively. So you did say that I direct, and yes, I do direct as well as shooting, and I think that's only come about because I have started a company where I've had to do multiple roles. So I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a natural director. I'd say I'm much more at home, you know, being a DOP, a cinematographer, you know, making things look good. And I'm always, I like supporting a director's vision. I never like to be the person who has the vision in the first place. So that's probably where I sit most comfortably. But yeah, like more and more these days, you know, we're working in a small production company. I'm generally having to do, you know, combined director and DOP roles together. Yeah.
I think that's a big thing because, again, this is just me on the outside looking in. I think I want to be a director just because I like the idea of having a story to tell and then getting together a team of people who are really good at what they do in order to make this story come to life. But in saying that, like, I haven't done it before, so I wouldn't know if I actually enjoy it or not. So for me, coming in or, you know, slowly making my way into that space of storytelling, and I think probably just trying out different things and finding what I like best. And then, like you, maybe it'll get to the point where I would much prefer to be a DOP than a director or something else that I don't know about yet. And leading on to this other point, Brad, which is what you were talking about leadership. I've been reading this book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Have you heard of it? It's from this dude who's passed away now. Stephen Covey was his name. But there's a section in the book, and he was talking about leadership versus management. And I just want to get your opinion on it. And it's management is doing things right. Leadership is doing the right things. So from your experience in team environments, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I'm at the point where sometimes those two conflict because I have my own company, and and sometimes I do overmanage, which is micromanage, because you want something done your way.
Yeah.
But because you're caught up in it, you don't have enough time to lead and them to follow, So I find my life is I love to be the one who leads, but I also have to manage as well. So I'm in a little tricky situation, because when you're running a company, I want it to be, it has to be sustainable and profitable and stuff like that. And you've got lots of freelancers coming in. So I think it will be easier if you had a core team that generally works together and you vibe off each other and you stay together for a long time. I think that would work well as being a leader. But I mean, I'd love to say that I was I would teach by leading. I'd love to say that, but I think it's tricky to say that sometimes, because I also have a lot of people coming through my company as freelancers. And they might not do it how you want it to be done, and and they might be different to the last person. So for me, it's hard. All the changes, sometimes it'd be easier to have a bit of consistency, and to me, it'll be easier to work as a core team for a good amount of time.
Yeah, of course. And that leads me on to something else that I had just heard, and it was about your capacity as a leader is based on your ability to deal with other people's problems. Is that how's that rung true for you?
Yeah, well, that's something that I have to deal with, almost on a daily basis, and I can't say that I've mastered it at all. Dealing with other people's problems is probably the hardest thing that I have to deal with. Every day. I mean, like you've got multiple personalities to deal with. I mean, to me, I'm stuck between a client and a freelancer, as a company owner. If everyone didn't know, I've got my own production company as well. So I'm wanting to make my clients happy, and I've got a lot of different freelancers coming and going, and they've got different styles and different issues, and they're good points and they're bad points. And it's I think when you get busy and you've got a lot of jobs on at the same time, it's difficult to manage their problems. I don't have a good answer to that.
Yeah, no, that's good, bro.
However, I think patience is probably something that I could do better. Yeah, and I always remind myself, I'm just like, okay, they've just started. They're not gonna just pick up the reins. As soon as the last guy left off, it's like, they're going to have a little different style, but ultimately you want to deliver the same product to your client. So I'm always pushing the team, and I have high expectations for myself, and then I have high expectations for the people who work around us. And I think ultimately that we always try to strive for a great product, I guess. And to get there is not always easy and smooth sailing, and
definitely hear you.
Yeah, but I certainly if you worked with me or around me, you'd know. I wouldn't say I'm the most easiest to work with, but I always respect people for working hard, and I'll push them to do their best. And I love people who work hard. And
I suppose, like, for you wouldn't work with people if you didn't know the level of work that you're after wasn't attainable from their person, they can achieve the results that you're after.
So. Well, I mean, for us, we also want to work with people who personality comes, it plays a big role, and I think that in the film industry in general, you'd rather get someone who you liked. If you were starting out in the film industry, I'd say likability is over knowledge of your path or your department is probably more important. You're working on a job with 4 months to 2 years or whatever. However, you're around them every day. You don't want to know it all. You want someone who you could have a laugh with, and someone who's got a bit of personality. So I think that's how we crew our jobs. Is also someone that we're going to like first.
Yeah,
and then what they know is probably secondary, because you could always teach someone. Yeah, you could always teach someone if they don't know. This is how you do it. Yeah, this is how we like to do it. Yeah, but
nice.
Yeah, having a connection and a bond, and values are important too. I mean, we like working with people who have the same values.
Yeah.
Where I certainly don't want to work people into the ground. I don't expect them to answer my call at 8 p.m.
Yeah.
Unless you're the producer, Karen.
Shout out to Karen.
Shout out to Karen. I love you, Karen.
So, bro, since we're talking about leadership and stuff, and how you've talked about, navigating that space, and you're still learning, is there anyone throughout your career who has really stood out for you, who has displayed the type of leadership that you'd like to instill in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I there is actually. There's one guy out there who was pivotal in me making a choice in my career, and he was a cinematographer at the time, Aaron Morton.
Shout out to Aaron Morton. Kia ora, Aaron.
So yeah, he's a young cinematographer. He was shooting second unit Xena at the time that I was probably about 10 or 12 years old. And I guess I used to look at him and I was like, okay, I want to be a DOP. I want to be a cinematographer. That's what I want to do. So he was kind of pivotal in me deciding what I wanted to do, and then following that throughout my camera assistant career, I actually, had the chance to work with him on several movies and commercials and stuff like that. So I always, I guess I. He was an inspiration to start what I do, and just seeing the hard work he used to put in, and he actually put me off as well because I used to wake up and go to work, and I'd turn up an hour early, and he would be there an hour before me. And I was like,
2 hours early.
Yeah, I used to work on Spartacus, and he used to shoot Spartacus, and I used to look at him and say, okay, now you've put me off. It's too hard, man. I can't do it. And he used to be so good. And I was like, I can't do it. Yeah. But, I always strive to be as good as I can be. And then there's a point that I dial it back and say, hey, is it worth, my family, my sanity, my life outside film? I think that's one thing that I've just started to realize recently. I think everyone maybe does when they get to a point, and they've done it for 17 years, or I haven't done it for as long as a lot of people in the industry, but there has been a point about probably about 6 years ago when I realized, hey, this is great, but I want to sacrifice only so much for the good of creativity, and I've also got other things that I want to do. So he was one of those guys who inspired me, and then almost put me off.
Aaron Morton.
Shout out Aaron. No, I love him to bits, but I certainly can't be Aaron Morton. You're a legend.
I think that's
it's a compliment. It's a compliment to him. He's really good.
Yeah,
really good.
I think that's a good conversation to be had too by everyone, because we always hear about the story of having goals and dreams, and how much you're willing to sacrifice and putting it all on the line. Everyone's heard that version, but we have never, or not often, heard the version like you just said, which was figuring out how far you want to go, and then dialing it, refining it back to the level that works for you and the life that you want to live. You know, like
Absolutely.
how much family time you want to have, how much time you want to have with your friends, and to do other things away from work and all that. And I think that's a good point.
I think if you had a life outside of film and your career, I think it makes you better at your career.
Yes.
You know? Because it gives you something to work for, and I've only found that out, you know, at a late stage.
Yeah.
That if you do have other interests or take a break from what you're doing, it's going to make you better at what you're doing, you know, in some way.
Yeah, that's a good point. I think that's
invest in your in yourself and in your mind. I think it's going to make you better at your job.
100% make you sort of more rounded, as opposed to just one-dimensional. Not that there's anything wrong with being one-dimensional.
No,
but I don't think people.
You don't want to become bitter.
Yeah, exactly that. I don't think people consider how much your life away from your work actually helps to improve your work.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I know, you know, because I spent a good 15 years in just doing films and TV, and you know, you work long hours, and you're going from job to job. You're always away from you miss all your kids' birthdays. You're always traveling. To me, I felt like I gave a lot of my life to that, which is great because it set me up. It was a fantastic industry, so exciting. But for me, because I had a family, I got 2 kids. It was really taxing on them. So what I have done now is I have pulled away from those long big jobs, and I've started up a small production company with me and my partner Felicia, and she's a producer and I'm the creative. So now we've got an opportunity to create our own destiny. You know, we can say, hey, I want to work a 10-hour day. That's it. I don't want to work weekends. You know, we've got a little bit more control, and I think now I'm able to have more of a balance because I'm in control of the jobs that come in. I can say yes or no.
Yes.
You know, so I feel like having that switch by just being part of a cog in a wheel and starting up something of your own with your partner has become so much more meaningful for me.
Yeah.
You know, I've enjoyed the entrepreneurial side of it way more, you know, than building up a project and supporting other people.
Yeah.
You know, whereas having your own company is it's a bit more rewarding. I'd say. Yeah. And
Definitely.
I say that I have more of a life, but it's still hard work. I'm always working, so yeah. But I you know, someone asked me the other day, 2 days ago, an old friend of mine who we worked in the film industry for a long time. He's like, "Do you miss the big jobs?" And I was like, "No way.
Yeah.
I do not miss them at all. You know, because I feel like what I'm doing now is more creative. I've got more creative freedom. I'm running a business which is rewarding in itself, you know, and I'm doing it with a partner, and I can hire friends."
Yeah, that's true.
Shout out Karen. Karen's a producer. Sorry for calling you at 8 o'clock every night. But yeah, we try and make it our own, you know, and that's probably what you guys do as well, you know.
Yeah.
Starting your own business with your partners.
Yeah.
It's cool. Or friends, you know. I've got a lot of friends who team up and they do great stuff.
Yeah.
And I really admire that, you know, startups, and I'm quite interested in entrepreneurship, you know.
Yeah. It's definitely something that has gotten a lot of attention over the last couple of years, you know, Instagram being a huge one of them, because you see every other person in their bio saying entrepreneur. And, you know, one part of it is legitimately people going out to be entrepreneurs and trying to make things out of nothing. And then the other part of it, I think people liking the idea of being an entrepreneur, like that, working for yourself without actually understanding how much hard work and sacrifice that goes into it. But in saying that, you know, a lot of work that you do anyway requires hard work and sacrifice. And I think it's probably made a bit more special when it's entrepreneurship, because it's for your own dreams and, you know, for things that align with your values, like you were talking about before.
Sometimes you say it and it happens, you know. So I think if you commit to it and say you're an entrepreneur, gosh, you know, you're going to work bloody hard to make sure that you live up to that name. But
yeah, exactly.
I personally find the business side of things interesting. At one part of my career, I wanted to be a producer. So I know this is really conflicting, a creative, a producer, a cinematographer. You know, it's just the weirdest. It's like I've got voices in my head saying, shoot, beautiful light. And then I'm on my other side saying, your crew's going into overtime, you're paying all this money. You know, it's like, it's so strange. But yeah, hey, I do it. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's right or wrong, but
So just go and start navigating those waters and find out for yourself. Eh?
Well, that's the thing, bro. I mean, I just think everyone should just do it. You know,
Yeah.
everyone should just get out there and try it. If you want to be a director, be a director. Say you're a director, and just go and do it. You know, and there's nothing wrong with changing.
Yeah.
Changing. You know, you need to. That goes back to my point about understanding everyone's departments. I think you do have to try that, and you have to try that, and you have to try that. Or if you don't try, just look at, you know, learn about it. Like, research what that department does.
Get an understanding.
Because then you have a better, you're able to make a better choice as to where you want to go. I think if you know, you need all the facts.
Yeah, exactly. Try all
everything.
the pies.
Try all the pies. Steak and cheese, bacon, all of it.
Never gonna know. And I heard this cool thing, bro. It's probably one of the coolest quotes I've heard, and it said, "Start before you're ready. Start before you're ready. Build the boat as you're out on the water.
Jump.
Yeah, jump. Just jump. And
Yeah,
you know, like what we were talking about before, is there's only one way you're gonna find out. You can only theorize about stuff for so long.
Yeah.
And so this is me talking to people out there who if you're that person who always just thinks about stuff but never actually goes and does it, what's, you know, the worst that could happen is you end up back where you are right now. You know, so just go give it a try, man.
Well, you know, it's that whole thing about risk taking, right?
Yeah.
You know, it's like you're not going to really get anywhere or further ahead unless you take a few risks.
Yeah.
And it's okay to fail. Like, you know, there's so many times that we thought of giving up our company because we hit the 2-year mark and everyone was like, you know, 2 years, you're probably going to shut up shop. And God, we thought we were going to shut up shop.
Going to be another one of those stats,
It was really tricky. But we held on. And then we finally got a couple of breaks from a few big clients, which was just pivotal to our company either failing or succeeding. So, I mean, that comes down to persistence as well. You know, it's that classic thing. If you're just persistent at something, I'm relentless. I guess that's me. I'm just a determined person. If I say I'm going to be something, I will do it. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, you do it. You're going to be a DOP, just do it and just don't stop until you've got it. But don't be afraid of changing either. You know? I never thought I'd direct ever, but it's just happened. Happened that way that I've had jobs come in under my company, and I thought, you know what, I'm quite suited to that. I'm passionate about telling that story. I'm going to direct it. You know, so it's multi roles, and there's nothing wrong with it, man.
I think that's a big thing, is trying not to put yourself in a box. You know, people are already doing that for you, like putting yourself in a box of, I'm just a assistant first AC, or I'm a DOP, and just letting yourself be flexible enough to try different things that may fit better for any given job or any given task. And for me, like my own personal experience, last year, for example, I had written down some goals, and one of them was to create a short film. I knew what I wanted it to be about, but then my partner and I, we created a business called Moko for Mokos towards the end of the year, and then we pretty much had to have a talk. And then Sunny told me, really had to decide to go all in on this because it's so early on, putting a lot of energy into it, and I was already doing heaps of other stuff too, and pretty much deciding to put that on the back burner. And I was sweet with it, but I know an older version of me, like a younger version of me, probably would have been too stubborn to want to change it. I would have thought to myself that I had to create that short film in that year because I said I wanted to, and not realizing that it may not have been the best thing for that time, which is all good.
I mean, timing is important, riding the wave a little bit as well. It's like I've got so many passion projects that I wanted to do, but it just didn't work out. And a lot of the times people ask me, they're like, do you do a short film, or do you invest in a camera equipment, or which way do you go about it? It's that whole balance between being a creative and making money for the company at the same time. And my theory was that if I set myself up with a business that was able to sustain creativity in a business sense, I would have more flexibility and control at a later stage to do my creative, if that makes sense. So Felicia and I, when we started our company, we wanted to do lots of things like creative, like music videos and short films and stuff like that. And at the time, it was going to cost a lot of money if we were going to go down that path. And I think for us personally, I'm not saying it's the right way to go, but we started investing in probably equipment and started growing the company in that way. So, and we went into advertising, which has got a little bit more money. So our theory was that if we just moved into advertising and just got of those, the bread and butter and the stuff you have to do, there's stuff that you don't always want to do, but you just have to do.
Pay those bills.
But it pays the bills, and we just gradually grew and grew, and we started with the A7S, and we bought a 5D Mark III, and then we just started buying a few lenses, and then we got an FS7, and then we moved on to the Red, and, so it's like slowly we started compiling our assets. And then it became the time where we had a lot of friends, and they were like, hey, I want to do a film, or I want to do a music video. Great. You can use all of our gear. We've got an edit suite. We've got an office. You've got those resources to facilitate your creativity. So it's like, I think that was our strategy. And it's a difficult one. It's a really difficult one because you feel like you're doing the grind and you're not doing anything creative. But I think I had a longer term goal because I knew I was in it for the long haul. So I knew that I needed to get here, but it's just how you got there. It's just, I guess there's many ways it's going to get, investment in infrastructure of running a company is going to facilitate our creativity now. Yeah. So that's how we've gone about it, and it's taken 4 or 5 years. So.
Look at that, man! That hard money.
But along the way, don't get me wrong, it's not like we haven't done anything creative because we've just gotten to a market. I mean, for all of those who don't know, our company specializes in kind of probably mostly advertising, working for agencies and brands and social media and stuff like that. But we've had to go down that path to be creative in some way, and it just frees you up a little bit. You don't have that grind of having to ask everyone to work for, we still do, but like $100 on a music video, because if you can pop all your camera gear and your edit suite on for nothing, you could, you've got more resources to play with and a bit more flexibility. I guess.
Of course. And saying that, bro, like having that dream of sort of creatives in the future that you fellas want to spend time doing. What are some of your guys' like dream things to create in the future?
Yeah, well, currently we've got a few ideas for some TV shows. We've got we've pitched and we're successful in doing a interactive documentary with a company called Vanishing Point about 3 years ago about the Auckland housing market.
Yeah.
It's called Untitled. So yeah, a lot of it was 360 interactive menus, videos, interviews, stills. Lots of different mediums. So we worked with a guy called Charles Anderson, and so we really enjoyed that. And I'd say that's a little bit of you'd class it as passion work.
Yeah.
And we couldn't do that without our advertising work.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean. We're able to do all these side hustles and, the fun, creative stuff. So I do want to do a TV show, and that is somewhat related to Indigenous storytelling, kind of interwoven with entrepreneurship. So basically what we're talking about here is something that I am actually quite fascinated about. So we're wanting to pitch the idea next year.
Man, that's awesome, brother.
So and we want to do a few short films. I haven't actually set myself a goal of doing a feature. I mean, just yet, it's not on my mind.
Yeah.
To be honest, I'm just caught up in the day-to-day running of the company. I like that stuff, and so long form, a little bit more long form.
Yeah.
Get out of this advertising.
Yeah.
It's pretty tricky. Pretty tricky to deal with.
I can imagine trying to fit all that info into such a short video.
Yeah. Well, the whole, the industry is changing in the advertising industry. It's just, you're not doing 30-second commercials anymore. You're tapping into so many different mediums, and you've got to do outputs for outputs and all different aspect ratios and hook people in the first 3 seconds. So storytelling for us is, what can we do in 3 seconds? 6 seconds. It's like it's a different way of thinking to long form. It's not what we like thinking, but we have to do it.
Yeah.
So our goal is to do some more long form.
Yeah. And since you're talking about that, about like ads and stuff, last night at that seminar we went to, he was talking about the percentage of people who actually watch live ads on TV, and in a room, how many of us were there? There were about 500 people. 5 people, I think, stood up to say they watched live ads, and the dude who was talking, he said that was 5 times more than the average, which was 1 out of 500 people who would watch a live ad. And in saying that, bro, since you guys do like ads and stuff for different agencies and businesses and that, have you noticed more of them wanting to get ads for like Facebook and Instagram and stuff, or are they still moving that TV route, or you can feel that shift, or how do things look from your end?
Well, I think probably the industry as a whole is moving towards more shorter form stuff. I mean, the market that we're in, we're swamped with social media content. I mean, because that's our market. But we're noticing, we are quite busy doing that, and clients have caught on to that. Maybe even more than 5 years ago. It's like they want stuff quick, and they want it for your 9x16 iPhone screen. You know, so we're in that zone, and I guess the tricky thing for us is that they want long form, they want a TV 30-second, they want to cut down to 15 seconds, and then some 6-second pre-roll. So it's like when you've got an ad, it's how you manage all of those outputs, but also the different lengths and the different ways of telling that same story across all of the platforms.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a challenge we face almost like on a every job basis is storytelling at different lengths.
Yeah. And would you say so scenarios like that where you've got all these different forms of content you have to create, tell the same message different ways, would you say having that sort of pressure has helped, would you say, force yourself to be creative? Like in a good way, not saying like be creative.
I certainly think that we've had to change the way we think of being creative in some way. For us, we do have to listen to the data of what all this stuff says. It's boring, but we got to know how long that demographic is going to watch that video, and then on that platform maybe it's a different target audience, and you need to be a bit more linear with your storytelling. And this storytelling, you need to be a bit more punchier and get it out, because people are scrolling through. So it's a really tricky thing to manage, storytelling across all different platforms. The worst is when a client asks you to do long form, short form, medium form banners, out of the same shoot day content,
Yeah, of course.
So the edits get pretty tricky, and it is a bit confusing.
Yeah.
But, for us, it's knowing the market as well. You got to know the markets that you're putting your content onto.
Yeah.
And there's so much need for content now.
Yeah.
There's brands are just screaming out for content creators, and you're always having to keep one step ahead of the consumer, I guess.
And it's moving so fast, eh? Like, for example, I'm just going to talk a little bit about different forms of storytelling. Like, one example is, have you heard of a guy? He's a YouTuber, famous YouTuber, David Dobrik. No. He's only like 23 years old. He's got like 15 plus million subscribers on YouTube, and he does a vlog that's 4 minutes and 20 seconds long. And so like his version of storytelling is he can cram it all in that 4 minutes 20 second long vlog, and vlogs are usually 10 minutes minimum. And then you have other people like Casey Neistat, who's another vlogger. He's got maybe 11 million subscribers or something like that, and his vlogs are more informative, and they're a bit longer, but he tells a pretty clear story with his vlogs. So I suppose like what I'm trying to get at is understanding all these different forms of telling stories. And for you guys, when you notice different storytelling forms, do you guys like to just experiment with all different types, or you guys just go from what you guys know? And like, is there very often when you guys try super way out there stuff, or do you guys have like a degree of how far you guys want to push things?
I mean, it all comes down to the client brief, but sometimes they get us on board because we're trying new things and we're willing to take a few more risks and be a bit more edgy. And I think that does come down to our interpretation of how we do the job in some way. So like a brand would come to potentially an agency or some middle person, and then they hire us for our style and the work we've done. But that's why I like this industry, or this type of market, this content creation market, is because you do have the chance to do things a little bit more edgier and take a few more risks and just see if it works, try it, like if you compared it to, a TV commercial, I mean, how many people are going to sit down and watch a 30-second television commercial? And, after working on, commercials for a long time, there's they're all kind of the same. I mean, it's like it's an ad.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think these, some of the content that you scroll through in your Facebook and Instagram is actually quite engaging. It gives you something to think about, and what I like our work to be is you get a feeling when you watch our work.
Yeah.
You know, if you come away with some kind of feeling, you don't know what it is, then we've done our job. I mean, that's what we always try to inject in all of our jobs, whether it be a 6-second content piece or a 90-second piece. It's you've got to come away with something and get you thinking, and either be inspiring or something you feel.
Yeah.
I mean, I love that, and I feel like I'm in a market where I can do that. So that's why, people were like, "Oh, you're not really creative." I'm like, "Hey, I feel like I'm so creative doing this stuff." Because you're always thinking about how you can do something different. There's a lot of competition out there. You see what everyone's doing, and you always think, I'm going to do something different.
Yeah.
And then you've got a big brand giving you a budget, and you've got an opportunity to do something different.
Yeah.
And I find that's rewarding.
Oh, absolutely. Just hearing about you talking about it is, I can tell already how creative it already is, because it's fast moving. That industry is, we see ads all the damn time, and you can't rest on your laurels, or you get left behind, get forgotten. Hey,
Totally. The industry is changing so quickly now. It's like, they always say you're only as good as your last job, and I think that's that. We always try and push the medium.
Yeah.
And try new things. So which is cool.
Yeah,
I love it, man.
Absolutely, brother. And just sitting here with you today, I've gained a new respect. I already had huge amounts of respect for the mahi that you fellas do.
Excellent.
Like you personally and you guys in your industry, but getting a bit more insight into what you guys do and what goes into it, and the decisions that need to be made in those high pressure cookers. I've got even more respect. So just to round our podcast down, brother. So with this podcast, I really want to be for creative people, and for people who have aspirations and dreams of being creative for a living. And as you and I were talking earlier, it's not always the case. A lot of people who are creative have a normal job. They work in a job that they ideally don't want to work in. So a way that I'm trying to help, with your guys' help, with the guests' help, is if you could give 3 practical steps, bro, 3 practical tips on how to become a video creator or content creator as a living for the people out there.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd say find something that sustains your creativity first. Find a job that's going to pay for your short film. Invest in a camera that's going to enable you to go out and shoot a short film. That's probably my tip number 1.
Nice.
Tip number 2, I'd say be persistent. Go out there and just don't stop until you've done your short film. Go out there and be determined. I think persistence is a really big one in this industry, because there's so many of us out there.
Yeah.
And, you may fail a few times, but just keep going,
Yep.
I guess the third one for me is learn how a set works. I've always thought that's a really important thing for all filmmakers.
Yep.
Even if you're making content on small crews, it's good to know what all the departments do. Because one day you're going to be a cinematographer or a director on a large set, and to have that experience and that respect for what everyone else does is quite important. So learn how a set works is a good one.
Cool. Yeah, that first one was a job that can sustain your creativity. Second one was, what was that?
Be persistent.
Be persistent and learn how a film set works. All right. Thank you, brother. Thank you so much for having us in your whare and for being on the podcast. You're my 3rd guest. I'm pretty determined right now to really try and get as many podcasts as I can done and as frequently as I can in order to help just add value to people who are listening, because I really do feel for our creative people out there who have a gift to share, but they live in an environment that may not be the best to nurture that. But I do know that through determination, persistence, like you're talking about, whatever it is your gift you have, you can share it with the world. So before we wrap up, brother, is there any last words you want to say? And also to the people listening, where can they find you?
Yeah, well, thanks for having the chat. It's actually quite inspiring just talking about this. It's not often that I'm actually really passionate about what I do, and I love it seeing other people who are passionate about what they do. So, man, if I was just going to say something and wrap it up, I'd just be like, grab a camera and just go out and shoot stuff.
Get out there.
Everyone asks me how you get into the film industry. Just start doing some stuff and find people that you know and just get in touch with them,
Yep.
But yeah, so you can find me, James Rua, at James Rua on Instagram, or I have a company called The Hood & Co. So look us up, and yeah, would hopefully love to collab with anyone. And nice to meet you, brother. It's been cool having a chat.
Pleasure being here, brother, and nice to finally meet you too.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah,
cool.
That's us, eh?
All right, bro.
All right, thank you everybody for tuning in. This is the Creative Curiosity Podcast. My name is Te Haunui Tuna. This is the brother James right here. Been a pleasure, my bro.
Awesome, my bro.
Hope you fellas enjoyed it. Mauri ora.
Yeah.